So we will be learning algo trading for the next 100 days. So you will become an expert algo trader after 100 days. So first thing first, we have to learn Python. Okay. So what is the definition of Python? So Python is a high level interpreted programming language known for its clear syntax. What is the meaning of interpreted? Basically, there are two concepts. One is compiler and second is interpreter. So compiler generally compiles the whole program in one go and it executes this. And in interpreter, what it does, it executes the program line by line. So we can say Python is an interpreted programming language. And also it's known for its clear syntax. The code is very beautiful and it supports multiple programming paradigms. Means you can code in procedural, object oriented and functional programming. So we will be learning object oriented programming shortly after a few videos. And also with the help of Python, we can do multiple things. Like it can be used for web development, it can be used for data analysis, and also you know that we can use this in artificial intelligence, scientific computing, and much more. So one question arises: why Python? Because of its design philosophy. As I have already explained, the syntax of Python is very clear and because of its readability, correct? And second is batteries included, means it has so many functions which makes our life so easy. For example, to reverse a string, it has a single function. But in other languages like C, C++, Java, we have to write a longer code, right? So that's why there are so many functions which you can use straight away and it reduces your lines of code. And third is general purpose programming language. As I already explained, we can use it for web development, artificial intelligence, data analysis, and so many things. And almost anything and everything we can use Python. And the fourth is libraries and community, because it has so many libraries, so you can straight away use those pre-coded libraries and you can make your any application way faster than any other language. And also it has a huge community, so whenever you are stuck in any condition, you can always ask for help, and also you can contribute from your side also. So why Python for algo trading? The first is easy to learn. Python is very easy and anyone can learn in just 1 or 2 weeks and they can start coding. And second is proximity with maths, because it has so many pre-built modules and libraries which you can directly use whenever you want to perform any mathematical operations. So it makes your life so easier. And also the community is very huge and there are so many people who are always eager to help you. So that's the basic reason behind that. So let's move to the next section. But before that, let me show you the process we are gonna follow. Okay, so this is how we're gonna follow the process. So we will be having 100 sessions and in which we're gonna cover each and everything, right? I'll post this link in the description. You can go and check that how we are gonna cover the topics. So first we will learn about the basics of Python programming, which will be having few sessions. You can go and check out. Then we will learn about the Python data types. Then the next is object-oriented programming. Then advanced Python. Then the next will be the libraries of Python, which is NumPy and Pandas, which is very important. You will be using virtually everywhere, right? And then next will be advanced Pandas. Then the next will be the data visualization, and the next will be the data analysis, right? So this is the plan for the next 30 days, and remaining 70 days I will be updating in the future videos. Okay, so let's quickly start with the first session, which is Python basics. So let's quickly move to the Python print function. So whenever you find this curly braces, you can assume that it's a function. And what the print function does in Python, that it is used to output data to the standard output devices, which we can say screen. And it can be used to print strings, you can print numbers, and you can print any other printable objects. So this function is often used for displaying information or debugging. So let me show you quickly. So what happens? So how it works? You just have to call the print function. Okay, and type like this, and here you can type like hello world, which is very basic in every language, and when you enter shift enter, it will be printed out. So here we have printed a string, but if you want, you can print any other printable objects. Like if you want to print a string and then you want to print a number, so number, we let's say 100 days, so let's say 100. And if you want to print a list, you can do that also, 1 2 3. And also if you want, you can print a float, which is 1.2, and like you can print anything here. Okay, you can also print a dictionary, like key value. So we can say this is key and this is value. Okay. So when you hit shift enter, you can see that how powerful the print function. It has printed a string, a number, a list, a float, and a dictionary. And now if you observe that we have space between each object, right? If you check here, this is a string and this is a number and we have a space. So why this space is coming? So in print function, when you go here and just wait for a second, then you will see the documentation of this print function. And here you can see that there is a parameter which is /n, and /n stands for the next line. If you have done the HTML coding, then you know that. So when I type here /n, and when I hit shift enter, it show me the same value. But what if I don't want the space between these and I want a hyphen? Okay, so you can just type a hyphen, and when you hit shift enter again, you have to type here SEP. Okay, and then you hit shift enter and you can see the results. Now if you observe here that there is a space between these objects. So what if I want a hyphen instead of this space? What can I do? If you go here and just wait for a second, then you will see. Okay, so here you can see that this print function has so many default parameters. Like for example, there is one parameter which is separator, and when you see there is a default space between these double inverted comma, right? And another is and, so there is default parameter and there is default value, that is /n. Okay, so if we change these values, we'll be getting our desired output. So here we wanted a hyphen instead of these spaces, right? So what we can do, I'll just go here and I'll type SEP and enter. Then I will just remove the space and enter a hyphen. So now when I hit shift enter, I can see that there is a hyphen instead of space, correct? Similarly, as I displayed you that there is another parameter, that is and. So what you can do, and similarly, like when we have multiple print functions, for example, hello world, this is Kuldeep, and okay, this is Kuldeep, and we are the unstoppable. Okay, when you hit shift enter, you can see that all these print output are on the different line. And when you go here and you just hover on it, you can see that there is the and parameter and the default value is /n. /n stands for the next line. If you have done the coding in HTML, then you know that, right? So if I change this value, I can get my desired results. So what I can do, I can just go here and type and here I'll give a value hyphen. So instead of next line now, and here also I can give and hyphen. So instead of next line, now all these three results will be displayed in a single line separated by a hyphen. And so here you can see the value, right? So this is about the print function. You will be using it extensively at everywhere, right? So now the next part is Python data types. So in this we have integers, float, strings, booleans, then again some complex data types like list, tuples, sets, and dictionaries. You can read this definition, but let's go with the practical. Okay, so the first is integers. So integer is what you can say, like let's print. Okay, so let's print this, and integer is like this. Okay, and what we will be doing, we will be also printing the type of this data type, so it will be better for your understanding. So when you check, you can see that we have printed 1 and the type of this 1 is integer. So always when you want to check the type of that particular data type, what you can do, you can just check with this type function. Okay, next is float. So I will just quickly copy this and I will type float. And here how we define a float, 1.2, and when I type here 1.2, it will be printed out like this. You can see here 1.2 and the class is float. Now the next is boolean. So what are the booleans? So what I will do, I will just paste here. Okay, so true and false are the boolean data types, and make sure that Python is case sensitive. So you are typing as capital T, not the small t. It will not detect, right? So you have to type like this, capital T, and when you print the type of this, you can see that it is the class is bool, right? The boolean. Next we have strings. Strings you know very well. So you can type 100 days of hell with Python algo trading. Okay, now fine. And instead of it, what we can do, we can just assign this to a variable. So that is the common practice. So what I will do, like I'll assign strings, and here I can just pass this variable. Okay, strings. And here also I can check the type strings. And now you can see that it has printed the strings and the type is str. Correct. Now the next is complex numbers. The complex is used very rarely, but it's better you know that, right? Sometimes it might be required somewhere. So I'm just explaining it quickly. So I will change it to, we can say, complex. And here you can give a number, like you know that how we define the complex number, 2 plus 3j, and here 2 is real number and 3 is the imaginary number, right? And here what can I do, I can just change it to complex from strings, and when I hit shift enter, we have the value, right? This is the complex number and this is the class, correct? And what if I just want the real number? So what you can do, you can just type like this, complex dot real. You will be having only the real number. And if you want the imaginary number, what you can do, you can type like complex dot image and you will be getting the imaginary number. Next is list. List is one of the most important data types. You will be using it a lot in the algo trading. So you have to understand these concepts very clearly, because if your fundamentals are strong, then you will be having an edge over all the other algo traders for sure. And I'll be explaining all these in the future videos very extensively. This is just the introduction. So just quickly have a look. What is a list? So I'll just copy and paste it and I'll change here. Okay, so now I will quickly change this to list. So I'll give it the name list. And how we define a list, you just give a square bracket here and then you mention your list items. Okay, so for example here I'm mentioning 1, 2, and then I can also mention a string in the list, 1, 2 Kuldeep, and also a float. Okay, 1.2, you can mention almost anything in the list. Okay, and when I print, I will change here the value as a list, and here also I will check the type of this variable. So when I hit shift enter, you can see that this has printed the list and also the type of this particular variable list, correct? So now the next is tuples. So the list and tuples are almost similar, just a small difference, which is we are using parenthesis instead of square bracket. Okay, so remaining, okay, I'll change here also tuples and I'll just copy that here, tuples, and here also tuples and tuples. There are more differences which I'll be explaining in the upcoming videos. For now, we are just having the overview. So just in list we are using a square bracket and in tuples we are using a parenthesis, right? And when I hit shift enter, so you can see that we have a tuple. Otherwise, the values are almost same. And the next is sets. So in sets also, the difference is not much. If you have studied in your high class about the sets, the concept is exactly the same. The sets in mathematics, and but here the style of representation is a little bit different. Here you have to use a curly braces, right? So I'll just change the values to set. Here also I'll change it to sets, and here also set. When you hit shift enter, you can see that the values are printed and the class is set, right? And last but not the least, we have dictionaries, one of the most important data type which you will be using a lot like list in the algo trading or data science, right? It's very important, and our fundamentals should be very strong in this basic concept, right? So here I'll just change it to dictionary. So what does a dictionary do? I'll just change it to dict. And here in dictionary, we have two things. One is key and another is value. So a key value pair. Okay. So let me change it. So I will type here key 1 equals to 1. So I can give it, and instead of equal, you are using a colon here. Okay. And the same goes for everything else. So I will just copy it and I'll make it key 2, and again this will be the key 3. So, and we can make it as a key 4. So now you know that we have 4 items here, right? Key 1, key 2, key 3, key 4. And the value of key 1 is 1, which is integer. And the value of key 2 is 2, which is also an integer. And the value of key 3 is Kuldeep, which is a string. And the value of key 4 is a float, which is 1.2. Okay. And when I print this, and when I print this, and when I print this, and when I change and print this, so now you can see that we have a dictionary printed out, and the class is dict, right? The dictionary. So what if I only want to print the values, the 1, 2, Kuldeep, 1.2? What I can do, I can just type dict dot values and parenthesis. And when you hit enter, then you can get the values 1, 2, Kuldeep and 1.2. Correct? And if you want only the keys, you can type like this, keys. And you will be having only the keys, key 1, key 2, key 3, key 4 in a list. Okay. And also the type you have seen in all the data types, right? So this is how the data types looks in Python, a very basic explanation. And we will be learning these in detail because these are very important to learn the bigger things in Python. Now we move to the next part, which is Python variables. The definition is variables in Python are names attached to a particular object or values. They are created through assignments and don't need explicit declaration. Python is dynamically typed, which means the type of variable is determined at runtime. Unlike the other languages like C and C++, where we have to explicitly mention that this will be an integer and this will be a character or a float, whatever the value will be, right? So here we have already used the variables, like in here also the set was the variable name, the tuples was the variable name, list, and all these were the variables name, right? So how to declare a variable? It's very easy and straightforward. Like if I want a like a equals to 1, and here a is the variable name, and for example b equals to the we can say a string, maybe apple stocks, and here b is the variable name. Correct? So now there are a few concepts like the dynamic typing and dynamic binding. So what is the meaning of dynamic typing? So in dynamic typing, what happens? The Python interpreter automatically detects the type of that particular object. For example, in other languages like C or C++, you have to type like integer a equals to 1 or character b equals to, let's say, Kuldeep, right? But here you don't need to do that. You can just type a equals to 1. Python will automatically detects that it is an integer, and if you type b equals to Kuldeep, it will detect that it is a string, right? So that is the concept of dynamic typing. Now the next is dynamic binding. So what is dynamic binding? So what happens in other languages like C or C++, you have to mention like integer a equals to 1. So now we have explicitly mentioned that a will be an integer throughout the program. So now we cannot tell that character a is Kuldeep. It will not work. It will throw an error, right? But in Python, it is very flexible. If you want, what you can do, you can just give like a equals to 1, an integer. Then in next line, you can give a equals to Kuldeep, which is a string. So it's so flexible. Even if you can assign a list or dictionary or set, and there is no boundation of that, you can do like that. So you can do like that. There is no issue and you will not get any error. So now there are few techniques through which you can reduce your lines of code. So what you can do in other languages, you have to type like integer a equals to 1, then again integer b equals to 2. I'm not telling that any other language is bad. Every language has their own pros and cons, but as we are learning Python, we have to compare, right? So integer c equals to 3. But in Python, if you want to achieve this whole thing in one line, what you can do, you can just type a comma b comma c equals to 1 comma 2 comma 3, and this is it. It's so easy. And also, and if you want to assign the same value to different variables, so what you can do, you can give like a equals to b equals to c equals to 1, and it will be assigned the same value to all these three variables. So it's that simple in Python. Now the next is Python comments, which is very straightforward. Comments in Python are used to explain Python code and make it more readable. They are ignored by the Python interpreter. Single line comments start with the hash symbol and multi-line comments can be enclosed in triple quotes. Okay, we are already using these comments, like here is also a comment. Like whenever you want to explain the code, make sure that you have a habit of commenting, right? It will be better for your teams. So how we can mention a single line comment? For example, you are declaring a variable a equals to 1 and you want that your teammates should know what this variable does. So what you can do, you can just type this is a which is equal to 1, and you can type anything, why you are declaring and why you are giving this name here, so it will be much easier for the other people. And again, if you want like multiple line comments, so for that you have to give triple quotes and then you can type your comment like this is Kuldeep and here is the example of multi-line comments. Okay, when you hit shift enter, you can see that we have a multiple line comments, but generally we always go with the single line comments, but if you require you can use it, right? You have an option. So the next is Python keywords and identifiers. So the keywords are the reserved words in Python that cannot be used as ordinary identifiers that define the syntax and structure of the Python language. Example include if, for, and while. Identifiers are the names given to entities like classes, functions, variables, etc., and must start with a letter or an underscore followed by letters, digits, or underscores. So these are the three simple rules. So like if you are assigning a variable a equals to 1 or defining a function, like defining function, you can say stock market, stock data, or a function. And also if you are like for a class also, if you are, so you can say market analyzer. So these all are the identifiers. A is also an identifier. Stock data is also an identifier. Market analyzer is also an identifier. You cannot use if because it's a keyword. It's a reserved keyword. So you cannot use this as an identifier, right? This is the basic difference between keywords and identifiers. So again, quickly, keywords are those words which are reserved by Python interpreter. You cannot use those reserved keywords as your identifier. Means your variable name, your function name, your class name, you cannot use those. And now, what are the rules for identifiers? These cannot start with a digit. Like if you want, here you cannot give like 1a, it will throw an error. Also, while defining a function also, you cannot start with any digit. Also, You cannot use any special keywords, which we have explained already. Here it will be characters, special characters, except, what will the spelling for this? Except underscore. You can use underscore, but other than this underscore, you cannot use any other special character like hash, at the rate, or any other special characters. So these are three simple rules. I cannot start with the digits, cannot use any special character except underscore, and identifiers cannot be keywords. So that is a simple concept of keywords and identifiers. Now we move to the next, which is Python user input. So generally there are two type of applications. One is static, another is dynamic. So in static, what happens? We only get the information. So like Wikipedia or any blog. So in that, we are only getting the information, right? We cannot communicate with that application. But in dynamic, we are able to communicate. Like YouTube, in that we can search, we can give comments. Also, we can give like. So all those are inputs, right? So to take the input from user, you just have to call the input function. And here, so if you just press shift enter, you will see a box. See here, if you are using Jupyter Notebook, you will see here only. But in Visual Studio, we are seeing a input box here. So here you can type anything you desire, like Kuldeep Singh, and when you hit enter, it will be printed out here. But this is not a good practice. So what we should do, we should always give some kind of information here. So we can ask here, what is the current price of Bitcoin? And give a question mark. And now when you hit shift enter, you will see the information here. What is the current price of Bitcoin? You can type like 62,000, and when you hit enter, it will be printed out. So this is how we take a basic input from the user. Now what we will do, we will just create a simple program in which we will be taking the inputs from the user and we will perform an operation, and then we will print the result. So what we can do, we can like ask again the same thing. So we will just cut paste and I paste here. So we can say, we can give it a variable name like current price. Okay, so current price, and we can also ask like earlier price. Like you can say yesterday's price. We can say YD price. Okay, yesterday price. We can say yesterday price. What is the yesterday price of Bitcoin? Okay, then what we will do, we will just check. Let's say today is the 62K and yesterday was 60K. And when you hit shift enter, it will not display, right? Because we have assigned this to another variable, and in order to print that, we have to print that variable also. Let's perform some operation. So we can say difference between yesterday's and today's price. So how we can do that? We can like subtract from current price to yesterday's price. Okay, and now you can, in like Jupyter Notebook, you can just type diff, it will be printed out. So when you hit shift enter, it will first ask you current price, then it will ask you yesterday's price, and then it will say unsupported operand type. So you just quickly type why we are getting this error. And now the time is out. I'll just explain you, because in Python input function, it always takes the default data type as the string. So in string, we cannot perform the mathematical operations. So let me show you the what we can do. We can just like, let me show you first the type of these. So the type of these variables. So I will just call the type function as we have already studied. Type, and type of this variable also. And let me remove this, and also this, give it a comment so it will not throw an error. So when I hit shift enter, it will ask me today's price. Then it will ask me yesterday's price. And when you see here, it has printed out the string, right? Okay, here I have to give the print to both these to display. So print, and again print. So like give any value here, 62 and 60, and you can see here that it is a string. So in order to resolve that issue, you have two options. One is to, while performing this operation, you can convert this string into an integer. Okay, you can just like call, you can just mention here the integer function, here also the integer function, and now when you give any value, it will not throw an error, right? But one more thing, when you change the data type, it will not change the original data type, correct? It is only changing in that particular operation. So another option is to change the type of data while taking the input. So here you can take, and when you hit shift enter and give any value, now you see that we have the integer data type, right? So this is how you can perform this, and when you print this difference also, you will see that when you hit shift enter and when you enter today's price and then let's say yesterday's price, and the difference is 2000 input. So this is how the input function works. And now we have the Python type conversion. So what is this? We have just did that. Here the default is string, but we have converted that into an integer. So that is the type conversion. We are converting the type of that data, right? So there are two ways. One is implicit and another is explicit. So what is implicit? So in implicit, Python automatically converts the data type, and in explicit we have to mention. So here we did the explicit type conversion, right? Because it was default string and we have converted that into an integer. But okay, let me show you an example. So for example, we have the price here 100, okay, and let's say price 1 is 100 and price 2 is 200, and I want the total price. Okay, so what I can do, I can just give price 1 plus price 2. So here Python knows that price 1 is an integer, price 2 is also an integer. So when we are performing any operation in this, it will implicitly convert, so it will not throw any error, right? So when I print here total and hit shift enter, it will display the 300. So this is the implicit type conversion. But instead of this integer, I just gave it a string. Okay. Now when I hit shift enter, you type in the comment any error or it will run. So when I hit shift enter, so it will throw an error, unsupported operand types. In order to resolve this issue, what I can do, I can just perform a type conversion here from string to integer, and when I hit shift enter, it will not throw any error. So this is what that Python type conversion. Sometimes it helps us. So we have to convert the data types. It helps sometimes. Now we are moving to the last topic of this day, that is Python literals. So first let's understand what are the literals. So while declaring any variable, for example, we declared here price 1 equals to 100. So here price 1 is the variable name, which is also known as the identifier, correct? Then it equals to 100. So 100 is the value of the price 1, and this is also known as the literal. Means what is the literal value of that particular variable? So this is the identifier and 100 is the literal, correct? There are various kind of literals in Python, so we can just go through the definition. Literals in Python are data items given in a variable or constant. Python supports various types of literals, including string literals, numeric literals, boolean literals, and collection literals. So let's quickly go through all those. So in binary, what happens? It starts with 0b, right? So if you print this, I will just give it shift enter, and here I will print a. Here I will print A. So here it is 9 because this is binary equivalent of 9. So it starts with 0B, then the decimals which we always use generally. So I can print B also here. So quickly print B and it will print 301. Then we have octal literals which starts with O, right? So binary starts with 0B and octal literal starts with 0O. And when I print this octal, so here I will print C and it is 209, means this is the octal representation of 209. Then we have hexadecimal which starts with 0x. So you can print this also, and this is 539. So we can say that 0x21b is the hexadecimal equivalent of 539. Then we have float literals which we have already studied, like e equals to 1.2 when we have a decimal, that is the float. And in complex also we have studied. So like if you are typing like 1 plus 2j, this is the complex literal. 1 is a real number and 2 is the imaginary number. In string literals we can type like h equals to string 1. This is the string, and here also we can represent it with a single quote, double quote, or a triple quote. So this triple quote is used for multi-line strings, and this double inverted quotes and single inverted quotes are used at various places. Like you can represent this string with single quote also. But if you have a situation like it's it's a string, so in that case it will get confused, right? So to resolve that issue, what you can do, you have to use the double inverted comma. You have to use the double inverted comma. So this is how you can use this. Then we have the Unicode strings. So in Unicode nowadays, like sometimes we have to print emojis and so many special characters. So you can use the Unicode string. So in Unicode string, what you can do, you can just print it and you can see that we have the emojis here. And in row string we have like /n, /tab, and all those things are the row strings. So you can also print those also, and when you hit shift enter, it will give me an error because I haven't typed the correct one. And here you can see that we have a row string. So this is what the basics of Python. If you have any doubt, you just let me know in the comments and we will be happy to help you. And there are a few more topics remaining from the basics of Python, so we will be covering them in the upcoming sessions. So meanwhile, you can quickly attempt the multiple choice questions and then you definitely attempt the task. It will definitely increase your confidence level and it will help you become a pro algo trader. So see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye, take care, have a nice day.